Welcome to The Business of Benefits is your no BS, no sales guide to real solutions.
No gimmicks, just the truth about how to take control, transform your benefits, and care for your most valuable asset, your people.
If you're tired of the same old sales pitch and you're ready to rethink your benefits, this podcast is for you. The truth is out there. Are you ready to hear it? Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Business of Benefits. I am your host, Chelsea Ryckis with Ethos Benefits. And today I'm really excited because we have Justin Held of the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans. Justin, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Justin Held from the International Foundation, IFEBP. There's going to be a litany of letters, synonyms, so I apologize in advance. Thank you for your understanding.
That's actually I've actually thought that for years. I'm like, we have IFEBP, we've got CEBS, the CEBS, so we have a lot to go through today. But I think you may or may not know this podcast is exclusively for employers with regards to their employee benefit programs. Most of our listeners are going to be human resources. We do have quite a few CFOs and then CEOs as well. So I felt like after being on your podcast, attending your conferences and speaking at them the last few years, I think that educating our listeners specifically on, the types of programs through the International Foundation, the conferences would be very valuable for them, because if they're listening to this podcast, they obviously like to learn, right? So before we get into it, why don't you just give a little bit of a background on who you are, your position there, and kind of what got you into this industry to begin with?
Absolutely. So I am a director of educational programs at the International Foundation. I'll get into this a little later, but education is what the foundation does. So there's me and about 5 or 6 other program directors at the foundation. We do about 75 in-person and virtual programs a year. So those 5 to 6 of us are sort of spread around amongst those 70 to 75 programs, and we design them and then deliver them throughout the US and Canada. So I got into this space sort of inadvertently. It sounds like everyone in the benefit space gets there inadvertently. My undergraduate background was in statistics, economics, and there's not a lot of inroads for recently graduated folks into that world. So the International Foundation has a research department, that surveys our membership about benefit trends, things that are impacting them. So I started at the foundation as a resident number cruncher for those, and then sort of wound my way throughout those 17 years into this current position right now. So, yeah.
Awesome. So can you give me a little bit of an explanation of exactly what the International Foundation does and maybe why it started?
Absolutely. So the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans, IFEBP, for all those marketing folks out there, a nice, long, lengthy title. That's what really draws the people in. Absolutely. So we are an educational organization for the employee benefits community. And we do that through objective, solution-oriented education, research, information, like I said. Our goal, our mission is to ensure the health and financial security of plan beneficiaries. We are non-lobbying. We are non-political. We don't endorse anyone. We like to say that we are Benefit Sweden, per se. So,
I love that.
So our mission is education only. We are a membership organization, and that education is done through a wide variety of educational offerings, like I just said. So our bread and butter, our history is through in-person offerings. Mm-hmm. We always say that we offer training for groups between 5 people and 5,000 people. 5 being some of those sort of smaller contract offerings where we bring instructors to your fund office specifically, and 5,000 being our large U.S. annual conference, which typically exceeds that number between all the attendees and all the exhibitors, et cetera. So we're currently in the process of planning that one right now, in the process of inviting about 150 speakers to that event. So. Wow. Also have a wide variety of webcasts, virtual learning options that can be on a single topic, or longer curriculum-based offerings that go over multiple days, et cetera. We publish 2 bi-monthly magazines, Benefits Magazine on the US side and Plans and Trusts on the Canadian side. So those come out every other month. Number of online toolkits we offer: AI, workplace mental health, financial education. There's about 20 specific topics there where we have a large compilation of resources if you're looking to do a deep dive into a specific topic, excuse me. A daily benefits newsletter, which is emailed to you directly every morning, called Today's Headlines. These are the 5 things you have to know. This is what's in the news. This is new research data. These are new trends that you should be aware of to best serve you in your role. The research surveys that I mentioned earlier, we have a full research department here. We survey our membership, and we compile all that data into research reports on benefit trends, and we send them back out to our membership saying, this is what you're saying, these are your issues, these are your solutions that your peers are using to overcome those obstacles, et cetera. So some fantastic takeaways there in those documents. Information specialists. As a membership benefit, we have several staff members here on site that are dedicated specifically to answering your benefit questions. So 4 or 5 folks. We still have a physical phone here. We have email accounts. I'm dealing with this specific issue specifically. I don't have 4 hours to research how to deal with this. We have staff here that compiles all those resources to you and gives them to you typically the next day. So yeah, throughout our history, we touted ourselves as having the largest physical employee benefits library in North America. Obviously, there's less physical libraries these days, so that space is shrunken. But yeah, we still have a huge area of our headquarters that are dedicated just to those folks. So just a couple other things here that we do. Our Word on Benefits blog, about 10 staff members here. We write blogs on a wide variety of benefit topics. Short, readable bursts that go out just a couple times a week for easy reading as well. So, and then obviously the Talking Benefits podcast, where Chelsea and I connected just a couple weeks ago on a fantastic episode. Me and 3 of my colleagues, we host this podcast. We address trends. We talk about the research. We interview experts in the field like Chelsea. Fantastic. So last thing I'll mention is our CEBS program. Again, more letters. I'm sorry. And this is and there's also a society of holders of that certification, the International Society of CEBS folks. And I'll address that later as this list gets long and long. I just like to say, when you get hired by the foundation, the first year is literally just learning those acronyms. So please bear with us on this audio and video format for explaining all these things. So,
well, I mean, it makes a ton of sense, right? Like, you're an educational organization and you're going to have a ton of different programs to address a ton of different needs within employee benefits. And I think it's also worth mentioning, if I'm not mistaken, you also are advising and teaching on like retirement planning as well. It's not just healthcare, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So sort of the health piece, the retirement piece, and the compensation piece, we kind of get in and out of. Mentioning more of the health piece here when I'm talking with you, and also just that environment is changing so much more rapidly now that health is becoming more and more of a point of emphasis throughout all of our education. But yeah, absolutely, the retirement piece as well. So,
what would you say your average member? Are we looking at like large private employers, large public sector, smaller employers? You mentioned the size of the events, but I'm curious, what types of employers are becoming members?
Absolutely. So I can that's sort of a jumping off point for sort of the history and sort of our foundational premise of and sort of how we operate. So our roots are primarily in collectively bargained plans, multi-employer plans. Union plans is what the sort of the general public might know them as, but it's not necessarily a specific union that's involved in a collectively bargained plan. So, and these plans were established in 1947 with the passage of the Labor Management Relations Act of 1947, the Taft-Hartley Act. I'll mention Taft-Hartley multiple times throughout this presentation. That's our world. That's our bread and butter. So, for time sensitivity purpose, there's a bunch of provisions on this act. I would not encourage you to read all of it because it's legalese. But yeah, among all the provisions that are included there, this act made fringe benefits, basically any form of payment besides wages, part of the collective bargaining process.
Mhm.
And this allowed employers to contribute to benefit trust funds tax-free if they're operated by boards of trustees in which labor side and the management side have equal representation. So that's sort of the stalwart of how we were founded. As those provisions rolled out, the trustees that were responsible for these funds realized that they faced a monumental challenge to have to manage these large increasing sums of money
Yeah.
and making sure that they effectively provide benefits to workers as well as their dependents. So against sort of that background, folks from 11 construction industry funds from 3 separate states gathered in Akron, Ohio in 1954 for a meeting to just talk about trends and issues and best practices. And that's where the foundation was born in 1954. So sort of expanding out of that Taft-Hartley space, in the 1970s, we expanded into the private sector, or as we call single employers, or as I call the real world,
Yeah.
by introducing the CEBS program. So that sort of established that bridge from that Taft-Hartley world to the single employer or corporate world. Also in the 1970s, and Chelsea, you and I discussed this, ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, add that to the list of alphabet soup. So that was enacted in 1974, and with it, sort of that concept of fiduciary duty applies to health plans, applies to retirement plans, like you said. And there's those 4 obligations that I think are pretty much branded on foundation staff at this point. They're just in our heads at all times: duty of loyalty, duty of prudence, duty to diversify your plan assets, and then acting in accordance with those plan documents. So, Chelsea, as you're aware, those fiduciaries can be personally liable for breaching fiduciary duties, and that sort of made the need for education more imperative than ever. Basically, why we exist. So that personal liability may have boosted the attendance at the first conference after 1974. After that happened, so
Right. And I with the rise of the health plan lawsuits. I mean, obviously, human resources, CFOs, CEOs, they're very familiar with fiduciary liability with respect to retirement. However, with respect to health planning, it's a relatively new concept, and it was really, I know we've talked about this before, but just to remind our listeners, what kicked that off was the CAA of 2021,
yes.
which really shone a spotlight on health plans and some of the fraud, waste, and abuse that was happening in the decision making process as well. I find it so interesting that for such a old, grounded, rooted company and organization, you guys were founded on the fiduciary principles, which right now there is not a hotter topic when right? Like how relevant it is and how much foresight you guys had to be able to say this is where we need to be educating our members. So I love that. And that's actually the same way that Ethos was founded. So I love that about our organizations for sure. So in addition, I'd like to actually dive a little bit into the CEBS. So Certified Employee Benefit Specialist. Did I get that right?
That is correct. Yes.
So I know it's a difficult designation to get. It takes a hot minute. Do you want to walk us through a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the CEBS program, Certified Employee Benefit Specialist, added to the list. So on the US side, we've partnered with the Wharton School at Penn, and on the Canadian side with Dalhousie University to create that super, super tough curriculum.
Yeah.
It's basically a graduate level course on health and retirement plan design and administration. There's 5 total courses there. And there's sub-designations on the health side and the retirement side. So on the health side, the GBA or the Group Benefits Associate, and then RPA on the retirement side, Retirement Plan Associate. Each of those 2 sub-designations have 2 exams, and then there's sort of a bridge, a 5th course that sort of brings it all together, that talks about strategy, having a common voice going forward amongst all those things. So beyond the CEBS program, folks that hold that designation, or they've taken an exam, or they've passed an exam, they can become members of the International Society of certified employee benefit plans, ISCEBS. We are currently at 43 local chapters across the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
I'm a proud member of the Milwaukee chapter myself. I got my CEBS designation in 2010, back when there were 8 exams. So every time someone here passes an exam, I remind them that I had to do 8 back in my day. I'm officially at that age where I'm making comments like that.
Right?
So
You're like, I walked to school uphill both ways, you guys.
100%, 100%. I used to mock those people, and now I'm one of them,
Isn't
which
it funny
happens
how
to
that
all of us.
happens?
Yep, yep.
How
um,
long would it take an average human resource professional to finish the CEBS?
so it took me 2 years, and that's when it was 8 exams. I was fortunate enough that when I started at the foundation, I was doing the research. I was writing the research reports. They said, we don't want you to write a word about benefits until you have those letters behind your name.
For real.
And I was, yeah, and I was still in that college mindset. So I was able to knock them out one per quarter over
Nice.
the 2 years. But now that we're down to 5, probably a year and a half is absolutely doable. But it is no joke as someone who's gone through it. So
I believe it.
yeah.
And then with those local chapters, is that monthly? And then are you bringing in like a speaker monthly to that? Like that is kind of like a little bit like a SHRM setup.
Absolutely. We don't use those 4 letters, but yes, it is a SHRM setup. Yeah, so they have their own in-person education events. They'll do their own webcasts. They'll do social gatherings, happy hours. Yeah, every chapter has their own leadership that sort of designs those educational paths for their folks, and they become great opportunities to network, etc. So, and as part of that International Society of Employee Benefit Plans structure, we have our ISCEBS symposium every year. That's the large standalone event where all the chapters get together and get educated on super important topics. So this year that is in Minneapolis,
Yeah.
and last year Chelsea and her team presented in Nashville
Yeah.
and did a fantastic job. So that was one of the first times that we got connected
Yeah.
for this fantastic relationship. So yeah.
So that means for the symposium, only the CEBS holders get to attend that event.
Yeah, holders and people who have passed exams, people that are ingrained in the program.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah, we always say these are the most motivated
Yeah.
benefits people. These are the benefits nerds, which is a positive term. It's not a negative, absolutely. So
No, and I will say we speak at a lot of conferences nationally, and
yeah,
the topic we did last year was specifically breaches of fiduciary duty and developing a framework for making better decisions. And you did have one of the most engaged and educated audiences I've ever seen. The room was packed, which was really nice too, and lots of really good feedback, lots of amazing questions. It's you can tell the caliber of individuals, right? Just with the engagement alone. So I love it. I think that's amazing. And do you see that most of the time employers are sponsoring the cost of these programs for the human resource professionals?
100%. They know how valuable it is for you to show up at these events, and I'm someone who designs the education for a lot of these programs. We sit in the back of the room of those sessions we designs, and we can literally see the light bulbs popping off. These are things that I'm dealing with. It's all light bulbs. It's all aha moments. So
Mhm.
um, the employers are absolutely for the most part sponsoring that travel and for the education. So
So let's switch gears a little bit from foundation and benefit programs and membership and all of that. But I do want to end that specific conversation letting our listeners know it's absolutely worth checking out. It's very comprehensive. Obviously, like everyone knows, I am very much a specialist in healthcare and health plans,
for sure.
but this organization is really all employee benefits and compensation. So definitely worth taking a look at, especially too if you are an HR director or at the strategic level and you have some benefit managers or you have people below you that you really would love to try to get them to that strategic level. This is something that not only will it require, multiple years of buy-in, which is great from a retention standpoint, but, it'll help you to maybe offload some of the lower level benefit decisions if these people are, graduating these courses. So let's move in then to the actual health benefits industry, because obviously I'm in my world, but I'm very niche. I'm curious, from your perspective, what trends are you seeing in health benefits, or what questions are you getting asked by your members? Like, what's everyone interested in this year?
For sure. So this is perfect timing. We just had the planning meeting for our 2026 healthcare management conference, which will take place in the spring, and that's going to be in Austin in spring. So
Oh,
look out for
fun.
information in that. So we fly in our volunteer healthcare management committee to the luxurious Chicago Hilton O'Hare Airport. It's not. It's not luxurious. And we sit in a room for 5 hours, and they tell us this is what trustees have to know about. This is what they need to know for the coming year. Um, so just some of the ideas, some of the topics that group threw around. Obviously, the changing legal and legislative updates at the federal and the state level. This is a perennial topic, but with changes in the administration, it's becoming more and more imperative. Things are moving a lot more quicker than they typically do. So obviously, the importance of preventive services, incentivizing your folks to utilize those preventive services, and
Mhm.
avoiding higher cost claims down the road, which is one of your specialties, obviously. Uh, the prescription drug pipeline, new therapies are coming down the pipeline on a daily basis. We're just trying to keep up here. Pharmacogenetic therapies, gene therapy. There's some life changing therapies there, some life changing offerings. What is the cost impact on your plan? What is the quality of life impact on your plan? Tough debates happening at that trustee level. So
I bet. Wow,
um,
that's really interesting.
yeah, mental and behavioral health, topic that sort of came to the forefront with the isolation that sort of came with the COVID-19 pandemic,
Yeah.
navigating mental health parity requirements, the provider landscape in the mental health space. There's some quality providers and not so quality providers that are being reimbursed for services.
Yes.
Um, what does that changing landscape look like? That volunteer group said we have to do a session about that because people are struggling.
Mhm.
Um, Fraud prevention in this space is a perennial topic. We're going to revisit that in Austin. Data analysis, identifying those high cost claimants, targeting them, disease management initiatives to target those folks without being overly burdensome. But what can we do now to prevent issues 20 years down the road? So, um, artificial intelligence and its role on the administration process. What
Hmm.
does this entail? How does it impact your plan? Um, there's pros, there's cons, there's time saving things. Is there accuracy issues? Our folks
Mhm.
are asking about that constantly. So that's
Hmm.
in the float. That's a floating in the air. And the last thing they discussed at that meeting, obviously GLP-1s, weight loss, sort of that broadening definition of weight loss. Um, are you covering for diabetes? Are you covering for weight loss only? Are you covering for nothing? Are you covering bariatric surgery? What other weight loss options are you covering? What is the cost impact on the plan? Again, the cost of the plan is the key. So,
Right.
and just a couple other perennial topics that we're covering, particularly at our U.S. annual conference coming up in Hawaii in November. Peer support models. This is a mental health initiative where instead of going to a professional, your skilled trades group designates 3 or 4 folks, their peers, the people that they're working on a job site along, train them in mental health and how to address issues as sort of the first step before going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Um, Folks who are in that skilled trades scenarios are much more likely to go to their buddy they're working next to than making an appointment with someone and waiting and et cetera. So that peer support model is something I would suggest our folks take a look at. Very, very, very interesting. Um, Something you deal with, Chelsea, navigating PBM contracts. Uh, these contracts are long, they're confusing, they utilize a lot of interesting language. So we're planning multiple sessions around that. What else? And just chronic conditions in your plan, disease management, perennial topic.
Yeah.
A lot of sort of individual topics floating around in the air. But the main takeaway, as I said, how do we provide the most comprehensive coverage for our folks while maintaining the viability of the fund in perpetuity?
Yeah.
That's the goal. That's what our trustees are doing every day. That's what our administrators are doing every day. That's what's keeping them up at night. And then that keeps us up at night to make sure those folks are educated. So
Yeah.
um, that's the mission.
I love it. I'm especially interested in that like peer mental health approach. That is not something that I've heard of, and I find it very intriguing. And I agree. I think a lot of people would rather talk to a friend or a colleague before they have to tell their wife, especially men, right? Like I need to make an appointment to go see a therapist or something like that. Never mind like, oh, now I need to navigate my benefits and I have to ask HR for help, right? Like
Yes.
nobody there, it's just not going to happen a lot of the time. So the accessibility of that, I think, is very interesting, as well as the cost containment component. I love that you guys are so focused on some of the high cost issues, and specifically when we think about a health plan, if you're self-funded, 60 to 70% of that cost is claims cost, and that is variable, right? We can create and implement programs that impact the cost of claims. And I love that you're doing so much education on that, specifically with the PBM contract, because a lot of the times that's where we're going to find, 20 to 30% of really easy waste that we can just kind of remove. And employees experience nothing different with a change from, a large PBM to maybe a fiduciary PBM that isn't taking all the spread in the middle. Employees have the exact same experience. So super excited that you guys are so focused on that. What advice would you have to HR that want to transform their benefits into more of like, you and I've talked about this a lot, long-term planning, future proofing your benefits, right? As opposed to each year, it's kind of a mess. What advice are you giving your members for future proofing?
Yeah, just I'll hit on a couple of things here. But honestly, it's a lot of the stuff just sort of browsing through your previous episodes, a lot of expert guests that they've
Yeah,
touched on as well. Doing that strategic review of your benefits programs. I'll as the jumping off point here, I'm biased because of my background in research. Um, Survey your people, focus group your people. Learn about your populations. What are they looking for? What issues are they facing? And where could they use help? That was sort of the impetus for that peer support model. You've got plumbers, pipe fitters, and bricklayers working on a job site for a month away from their families. If they have a mental health emergency, they're not going to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. They're pivoting to their best friend and saying, "Hey, I need help with something." That's how that it's learning about your population. What issues are they facing? And then obviously gathering data on utilization, something that Chelsea deals with all the time. And you have your survey data, you have your focus group data, you have your utilization data. Use all of it. You can see if the benefit plans that you've designed are meeting the needs of those workers. Where are the gaps? What are you missing? Um, on the other side, what are you offering that's not being utilized or is being utilized at low levels? Is it a communication issue, or are you offering something that's not a fit for your population? So just again, a strategic review of your benefits and making sure that it's matching your populations. Just going back to the actual purpose of offering benefits, we're helping our workers, we're increasing productivity, we're recruiting fantastic folks from around the world, and the folks that are great, we're retaining them and keeping them. Just the overall goal of benefits as a whole, the reason we exist. So, again, as a starting point, look at your healthcare spend. Where do your expenses fall? Maybe just choose one area to focus on.
exactly.
Um, and how can you make changes just in one spot to be a little bit more cost effective? And you had mentioned those PBM and claim changes. So many of these changes that you're going to be doing are going to have no impact on your folks. They have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. So,
They're
um,
usually contractual.
correct.
It's genuinely, and that's something that I've noticed a lot over the last couple years is the biggest area of opportunity. It's, a lot of the times employers are thinking it's this massive change. It's not. It's to your point, it's picking one thing, creating a KPI of like, okay, what would success look like if this one thing was performing optimally, right? And then the most important part, which I don't think most people realize, is how is that contract written? Because that determines absolutely everything. Do we have gag clauses in there? Is there spread pricing? Is there clawback fees where, let's say, the administrator makes a mistake and then they go to fix it, and now, even though it was their mistake, they're still taking a percentage of that. There's so many things that if you look at it at face value in a contract, especially PBM contracts, but honestly, all contracts,
What contracts?
broker agreements as well are the same thing. it's really hard for an employer to know what those things are to look for. So I love that your content is, and something I really appreciate about your organization, it's not, you're not protecting anybody specifically. You're not taking money from organizations that want to portray a point. It's very neutral, and you don't see that a lot.
100%. Again, non-political, non-anything. Are you keeping up to date on compliance requirements? Are you so the education that you're getting, is it being provided by a vendor?
Right.
Does that vendor necessarily have the best interest of you and the plan in mind? That's the question. So yeah.
It's really interesting you say that because a lot of the employees I've hired over the last decade, when they start with us, they're like, so where do we go for our training? And I'm like, well, it's internal. And we've developed our own internal training because our model is a little bit different than traditional agencies. So it's, it's not like I could hire somebody to come in and do it. I had to create it myself. And they always say, oh, our training has always been with the carriers. So a lot of the times when they started at a benefits agency, they'd get sent to a large carrier's national office and they'd spend a couple weeks there learning about that carrier's product, which is just kind of to your point. It's like, are we sitting in a vendor sponsored session where, we're being fed kind of what somebody else wants us to do versus do we have that strategic baseline of knowledge where we can look at things objectively and really see what is best for this specific group of humans that need financial and physical protection, right?
100%. Yeah, and we absolutely have a space for those vendors. At a
Yeah.
lot of our at a lot of our large conferences, we have a large exhibit booth, but we make it a point that these 3 floors are dedicated to education. The
Yeah.
vendors are way over on this side of the convention center. You can, if you're looking for new products, new ideas, go over there and have a talk with them, and they'll give you your stress ball, etc. So,
Well,
but
100%. And
yeah,
I mean, a lot of the times for human resource professionals, they do go to conferences and they love the expo hall and the exhibit hall because that is a place, where they're learning so much. I
100%.
think the important thing comes back to when you actually are in the due diligence process of determining whether or not these vendors are a good fit for you, that you're just determining alignment, right? Like, are they working in my best interest? There's nothing wrong with meeting a vendor that sponsored a conference at all, right? It's is the contract and the outcomes of this agreement going to be in my best interest ultimately?
100%.
Well, this was fascinating. I thought I knew everything about the foundation, but obviously I didn't. Where can our listeners learn more about you or the foundation?
Sure. I'll start with the foundation. IFEBP.org is our website. And if you go to ifebp.org/about, there's a lot of very bullet pointed list of things what we do. It's not going to take a half an hour like it just took me with you. But it's all laid out there in a very easy to read format. We're always looking for contributors, volunteer contributors, moderators, speakers, authors for those magazines. We have guest blogs. Or just taking it one step further, we have a very extensive volunteer committee structure that help gauge our strategy every year. So every spring, about 200 of our volunteer folks get together to sort of determine the strategic direction of the organization, and we're always looking for volunteers for that as well. Again, our strategic direction is shaped by that extensive volunteer governance structure. IFEBP.org/about us. Learn about everything that we do. And as I mentioned, a large portion of those resources are free. You don't have to be a member to access them. The blogs, the podcast, a lot of our e-learning stuff is free to the public, just as a way to get to know who we are.
Mhm.
So yeah, go check that out. On a personal level, I'm on LinkedIn, Justin Held, CEBS. I put that CEBS in very large letters after the fact because I'm still proud of it. 15 years later, I'm always looking for the next great foundation volunteer. So looking forward to have some great conversations. As I mentioned earlier, we have our own podcast, Talking Benefits. I host it with 3 other colleagues, free to everyone. And as I mentioned, Chelsea was a guest on our June episode, talking about that, establishing that fiduciary framework for your health plan. If you're listening to this, she was a fantastic guest per usual. So,
Thanks.
yeah, reach out to me personally. I'd love to chat about this stuff, Chelsea. If we could put my contact information in the
We
show
will.
notes, throw it all in there. I'm always available and happy to chat. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure hearing more about the foundation, hearing about more about your background, and maybe after the symposium, we can have you back to do kind of a recap of like best sessions and best takeaways and things like that.
I'd be honored. That sounds
Okay.
great.
Thanks, Justin.